Are we live? Are we live? Are we live? Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to Speaking of the Devils. I'm your host, Ryan Novozinski, joining you from my home studio right here in lovely downtown Ewing, New Jersey. We have a very special guest joining the show here today, but I wanted to first give a quick tribute to New York Post, legendary New York Post Hall of Fame sports writer Larry Brooks, who died today at 75. Larry was a legend. Everybody read his Slapshot column. I think every young journalist should aspire to be someone like Larry. You know, a guy that's dogged, a guy that always holds those in power accountable, and a guy that was just connected more than anybody. Quite frankly, he was probably the most legendary figure in New York sports writing history, definitely in the hockey realm. So he will be sorely missed. I mean, you just see all the tributes coming in from hockey, hockey minds everywhere. Everybody talking about Cory Schneider, so he will definitely be missed. But don't really know how to pivot from there, but we have to at some point, and we welcome to the show today a very special guest once again. He was the Devils goalie for 7 years, and now he is a part-time host for the Devils on MSG Network. Everybody, please welcome in Cory Schneider. Cory, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing all right. How you doing?
Awesome to hear. Oh my gosh, there's that going off again. Um, Cory, let's start with your post-career success, man. How did this media, thing kind of all come together for you? Curious how, and was that a thing that you thought that you would do back in your playing career?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't something I had my heart set on. And I appreciate you saying success. I think it's still to be determined, but working at it every year and just trying to take as many opportunities as I can. But yeah, I mean, as a player, you interact with the media all the time. It's part of the job, whether you like it or not. I generally try to be as engaging as possible or give thoughtful answers when I could. There are some times where you just can't say a whole lot, or maybe you're not in the mood. But it's an interesting job because you're the conduit from the players to the fans. And I know hockey players are notorious for giving canned responses or not giving you a whole lot of interesting information. But I found that side of it interesting. I like talking about the game. I enjoy the nuances and the breakdowns and trying to get to know guys better or show their personality a little bit. And sometimes it's easier post career than it is during your career because you got a lot of other things to worry about. But yeah, I mean, I had some trials back with NBC Sports when they were still a thing in the playoffs, and it's a good challenge. It's a challenge just like hockey was, to process multiple things at once, to be clear and concise and try to convey something to the audience in a way that's digestible, because at times you can just sort of run on and on as I'm doing right now. So I found it to be a fun opportunity, a fun challenge to stay involved in the game. Because, honestly, if I wasn't doing this, then I don't know how much hockey I would be consuming otherwise with my kids and other interests. So it's been a fun way for me to stay involved in the game without having to do it and get my body beat up. So I've been enjoying it so far.
We will get back to your media career in a second, but I want to go back to even your playing days. I would love to hear from your vantage point just about your time in Vancouver and playing with Luongo, and then just your level of surprise, I guess, whenever the Devils trade happened. Like, what kind of scene set that for me? Like, what exactly was going through your mind when it's like, okay, I'm going to the Devils?
Well, yeah, I mean, the first part of the question, just being in Vancouver, it was a dream. I made it to the NHL, and that was my first team. That was the team that drafted me. Again, everything is hindsight, and age gives you some wisdom and perspective. But when you're young, you're just chasing it. You're doing whatever you can to get to the next level and the next level after that, and ultimately the NHL. It seems so far away at times because there are bumps in the road. Nobody's development usually is linear. There's highs and lows, and there are times where you're on top of the world and times where you think, I'm never going to play the game again. So, it took me a while to get there. I had 3 years at Boston College and 3 years in Manitoba, where I had some call-ups here and there. But 6 years later, I finally made it as a 24-year-old, and it was incredible. The city was amazing. We were young. I was dating my wife at the time. We had a great group of teammates, and we were a very good team too. So I think your initial impression of the NHL isn't always the accurate one, because we had a lot of success and a lot of fun as a group. And then you think you're going to be there forever. You sort of think, hey, this is my team. They love me. I love them. Nothing's going to change. And then the rude awakening of sports and the business side hits you, because My last conversation with Vancouver was that I was going to be the guy going forward, and they're going to move forward with me. And I took them at their word, and I came to realize quickly that things change. And obviously, whatever internally changed for them, they felt it was better to move me than Roberto. And I became a New Jersey Devil. So to say I was blindsided is understating it. I never saw it coming, and but that's kind of life, and that's your career. They're sort of the same, where they throw you curveballs and you have to adapt. And I didn't know much about New Jersey at the time, other than from what I watched as a kid in the '90s and early 2000s during their kind of a bit of a dynasty there. So I looked at it as an opportunity, though, to start a new path or carve a new story in my career. And once I kind of settled in and I realized what had happened, I was really excited about the opportunity to be closer to home, be on the East Coast, play for guys like Lou Lamoriello and the history that they'd had and the success they'd had recently. So, I quickly changed my mindset and was very eager to become a New Jersey Devil.
And one thing you touched on in there is just kind of the mindset and the success of the teams that preceded you as well. Because I feel like it wasn't when you got there, like it was like what, a decade removed from their last cup. And obviously they went to the cup final in 2012. What I mean, what was the pressure like of kind of going into those teams? And obviously the guy that you succeeded is Marty. What was the pressure of having that just monumental task like that I could not imagine doing?
Yeah, I mean, I think my time in Vancouver equipped me well. I came into a really intense hockey market, a Canadian market, a team that had Stanley Cup aspirations, had played games in the Stanley Cup final, and Roberto Luongo as well, now a Hall of Famer, just like Marty was definitely when I got traded there. So I think that helped me in a lot of ways, just to understand what the dynamic was. And it was a challenge more so, I think, to make sure that people believed in me, the fans, the organization. I knew the organization did, otherwise they wouldn't have traded the ninth pick for me. But sometimes publicly, it's well, you're not Marty Brodeur, and I kind of was like, yeah, I know. I'm trying to be me. I'm respectful of what Marty did and who he is and what he means to that organization, that fan base. But I was never going to be Marty, no matter what I did. Barring 4 Stanley Cups in my time there and multiple Vezinas and Jennings and all those records. So I quickly learned that, hey, I want to learn as much as I can from Marty and be respectful of him. But I'm also here to do a job. They brought me in and they paid a high price for me to come in and maybe be the next guy after Marty. So, we had a good relationship. We had a good dynamic. He was at a point in his career where he still wanted to play and could play at that age. And I was at a point in my career where I was hungry for more and to become a full-time starting goalie. So sometimes those two ambitions don't overlap, but we did what we had to. And, Pete DeBoer, I thought, did a great job just managing us and just trying to be realistic with both of us. And again, it's never easy to replace a legend or come in there and be the obvious successor to him when he's still playing and feels like he can play. So, and he played well. So it was an interesting situation, but not one that I wasn't unfamiliar with, having played with Roberto in Vancouver. So again, I just try to be me and play my own style and do it my way and not try to be something I wasn't, and that would be Marty. So he was his own unique unicorn in the hockey world. So, it's a fool's errand to try to become something that you're not.
It's a cursed image for Devils fans still to this day, seeing Marty in that St. Louis Blues uniform. How wild was that for you? I mean, like, I feel like the hockey world, like, that's
Yeah.
this is like a 10-year-old or even longer than that story now, but like still has to be pretty wild.
Oh, I mean, I had posters of Marty on my wall as a kid, along with Patty Waugh and Roberto. So I've interacted with a lot of the people I had up on my wall, which is pretty fun to say. Not a lot of people can say that, but hey, I hate to say it for Devils fans, but I'm a Patriots fan. So even seeing Tom Brady in a Buccaneers jersey is bizarre to this day. So I completely understand what that felt like.
I'm a Patriots fan myself, so go Drake May
All right,
tonight.
there we go. The next one.
He's been awesome.
Yeah.
MVP.
Hey, you said it, not me.
So let me ask you this. Like, I feel like, sticking on kind of the Marty theme here. I feel like you were a good bridge between his style of goalie that played like 75 games versus like goalies, splitting reps and everything like that. What is your kind of take on the goalies platooning now and because that's a noticeable trend that we've seen in the NHL now, to the point where it's like, I feel like there's some teams that even try to roll with 3 at times.
Yeah, I mean, I understand it. The sports science and the injury prevention and maintenance stuff has come such a long way that it's very different than it was 20, 30 years ago. But I think there's a fine line. If you ask some of the older guys, the Martys, the Patty Waws, the Robertos, it's, hey, play every game until you tell me you're not. And that's got to be your mindset. And they might think that guys are softer today, that they don't want to play every game or they can't. But I think it's also, you're trying to optimize guys' career and their performance and say, hey, we know you struggle if you play on back-to-backs, or we find that after the 60th game, goalies tend to drop off. So we're going to go with, what the numbers and the data tell us. And I understand that too, because it's a huge investment. You're investing $8, $9, $10 million into your goalie. You want to make sure they're playing their best at the right time and hopefully deep into June. So, I got up to 69 one year in Jersey and 60 other times, and it's a grind. It's more of a mental battle sometimes than a physical battle. I mean, you're in your 20s, you're in your prime, you're in great shape, but it's more of the mental. All right, I got to ramp it back up tonight again and be perfect, and that can take a bigger toll. But yeah, again, it's the game's faster, the game's more skilled. There's more chances than there were even when I played. So I understand the toll it takes on goalies nowadays, physically as well as mentally. So having nights off it was never usually about the physical part. It was more just, hey, you can shut your brain off for a night. You don't have to think. You don't have to prepare. The more you skate, it's a 10 minutes on the ice. That's not the hard part. It's the 40 minutes you have to warm up and prepare and put your gear on and get off and do all the post stuff. So that's more of that kind of thing that comes into it. So it's a fine line, and I understand both sides of it, but organizations pay a lot of money to get these answers, and they're going with what they think they should be doing.
They sure do. Cory, the Devils right now have two goalies that are in their mid 30s, and in Jacob Markstrom and Jake Allen. First off, your thoughts on both goalies, and second, how do you think that they can? What's your advice to them in kind of sustaining success late in their career? Which to this point, I would say decent season so far.
Yeah, I mean, again, they're both veteran guys. They've been around a long time and played at high levels. So I don't know how much advice I can necessarily give them, but I think they're a great tandem. I think they're perfect for what the Devils need right now. I wouldn't call them a young team anymore, but they have young players, and sometimes young players are inconsistent or make mistakes that older guys don't necessarily make, and your goalie's got to be there to cover that up. And I think that steadying presence is just important for a team to say, hey, no matter who's in there, Marky or Jake, we're going to get a save and we're going to have a chance to win every night. It's tough when you're a younger team or a team with high aspirations and you go into each night saying, are we going to get our brains beat in tonight, or are we going to get a shutout? What's going to happen? So I think they both provide that level of consistency because they've seen it. They've been there. They know what to expect. And, I think the Marky trade has worked out really well. And then Jake, I think it sort of points to the goaltending at large in the league, is that it's really hard to find dependable goaltending. You see teams getting guys and locking them up. They don't want to let these guys get away because there's no guarantee you're going to get a replacement or an equal or better substitute. So teams around the league, you see some contracts and you might raise some eyebrows, but hey, that's the going rate right now for a guy who can play 40, 50 games and be a 1 or a 1A. So I think the Devils were smart to lock in two guys they trust, they know, instead of seeing what else is out there maybe, because nobody's giving up goaltending right now. So I think the Devils should be fortunate they have two guys, and even a third, Nico Dawes, who's played well, just carrying the team right now.
No doubt, and the market, whenever both of them would have been projected to become free agents, at least Markstrom is no bueno. Sorry if you saw my camera like shaking there. My dog is actually kind of like chewing on the wire there, but I got him away.
Yeah. I've had cats and dogs. I do this kind of stuff.
So you were, again, not only a good balance between the styles of goaltenders and stuff like that and reps, but you're a good bridge between the Devils eras, right? Jack Hughes lived with you. Do you have a go-to Jack story from when he lived with you? Just so curious about that.
No, I mean, he was a really good kid. He came in at 18 with a lot of pressure and a lot of expectations, but just to be around him and try to help him as much as I could. I mean, he's a smart, talented kid. He was going to figure it out with or without me. But you kind of realize, man, this kid's 18. Like, I was in college trying to find beer money in my couch to go out to sneak into a bar somewhere when I was 18. So very different perspectives, but he had a good head on his shoulders. But he was a funny kid. We get him behind the scenes and just interacting with him. And I think one time we tried to go to a local car dealership to maybe see if they would give him a car for the year, because this is Jack Hughes, #1 pick. Certain cities, that's a no-brainer. You go to Edmonton or Vancouver or whatever, and it's like, oh yeah, of course, you want a loaner for the year. And we test drove a car, and the guy didn't seem to know who he was or who I was, and I didn't know how to do that song and dance of like asking for a car for him for the year, and neither did he. And the guy sort of was like, all right, well, let us know if you're interested, and just walked away. And Jack and I kind of looked at each other like, what just happened? That didn't go as planned. So, he wasn't presumptuous or felt like he should get anything, but that's not kind of the deal sometimes in certain cities. But again, apparently this guy didn't know who either of us was and wasn't very interested in loaning Jack a car for the year. So that was just one that popped to mind of him just sort of not like what do we just do there, and why do we waste our time? But he can afford plenty of cars now, which is fun to see. And yeah, it's great. Nico was a young kid when I was there. Jesper, Brat, just some of these guys now who are leading the team. It's fun to see and remembering what they were like when they were younger. And you hope you had an imprint on them, or that they remember stuff from you, because I do think veteran guys are important. It's important to have a few of them. They got to be able to play. You can't just have charity cases, but you do lay the culture and the foundation, because you can't expect the young guys to carry that load that early. And I remember a lot of guys I played with early in my career. We talked about Vancouver. I was blessed to have Luongo and the Sedin twins and Bieksa and Ham Hughes and Malhotra, guys who are now succeeding because they were strong leaders and set a really good culture for the team. So I remember lessons from them, and I hope those guys did. But if not, they're heck of a player, and all of them. So I'm excited to see the future and where they're going now.
First of all, this proves that you're good in the media, because usually people hear like the oh, do you got a story for him question, and they'll say like, oh, not one off the top of my head. That is an amazing story. I'll tell you what, like I feel like now the growth of Jack Hughes, and it feels like he's everywhere. Like he's in all these commercials. He does like a Mucinex commercial now too. Um, I feel like if he walks into a car dealership nowadays, with the hype that's around Jack Hughes, I feel like he's probably there. Someone's gonna know who he is now. Wouldn't you say so?
Oh yeah, I'm sure he's doing just fine. Again, I don't know if it was a little different era back then. It was 19, so a little bit longer ago, where social media wasn't quite as big as it is now. And I think the Devils now are just they're a bigger draw, and he's a more recognizable face. I think back then, at 18 years old, he looked like a kid who could barely drive. So maybe they were a little suspect of what was going on. Or, but yeah, again, it was a funny lesson learned that not everyone, you can't assume that everyone knows who you are. But I don't think Jack has that problem right now. He should be the face of the league, and I'm glad they're pushing him to that, because he's got everything.
He sure does. Cory, last couple for you. So, just your overall thoughts on this Devils team. Off to a good start this year, injured and still winning. Your kind of bird's eye view of all this.
Yeah, I've been lucky enough to catch and cover a few of their games in person. It really strikes me their resiliency. They've had guys in and out of the lineup. Dougie and Pesci are out now, but Nason missed the start of the year. Cody Glass missed time, so Markstrom missed time. So it seems like no matter who's in their lineup, they're consistently in games. They never get blown out. It seems like they're always finding ways to win, and I think that's a hallmark of a strong team: versatility and consistency. So I think it's really exciting. I think they're for real too. The way the East is right now, it's a little upside down. So some of the perennial powerhouses aren't really in the mix yet. And this might be a year where they can't sleep too long. You got to start winning if you want to get in with some of these up and coming teams. So I think Jersey's put them in a great spot, and we'll see. It always comes down to the playoffs. Are they built to win in April and May? And I know, Tom Fitzgerald has done a lot to add sandpaper and grit and some size, so that way when it does come to that time of year, you see the type of hockey that's get played. Are they up for the challenge? So I think they're going to put themselves in a good spot to get there, and we'll see if they can do it. Then I can't predict the future, but you got to give yourself a chance first, and they're doing that.
Yeah, no doubt, Cory. So we're gonna take just one or two fan questions here that got some live commenters here, and they're all excited about this. So we are gonna start here with Zach W. Asked an interesting question. Cory, do you remember Connor Brown poking that puck in front of you for a goal back when he played for the Maple Leafs?
I got to be honest and say that I don't. A lot of goals got scored on me, so I'm at the age. And I used to remember them all. Back when I played, you could break down almost every game. You had like a photographic memory, and then you get older and you start forgetting things. So I honestly don't quite remember that one. I'm sure if you showed me a replay, I could picture in my head, but not off the top of my head, unfortunately, Zach.
Next one here we got from Kyle. Kyle says, "Would you ever be interested in coaching or management in the future, or are you happy with the TV analyst side of things?"
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, that's sort of the lane you got to pick if you want to stay in hockey as a player when you retire. It's kind of one or the other. It's media or coaching and management. So for now, I've started in the media because coaching is a full time. It's a really heavy, intense commitment. You're there before the players. You're usually there after the players. You get paid a lot less than the players to start out. So it's all a work-life balance. And I was fortunate enough to be able to pick and choose. And, I wanted to be around for my kids more at the ages they were at. Because when you're playing, you're there, but you're not always present. You're focusing on other things. So I wanted to take some time to sort of figure out what I wanted to do. But yeah, I'm enjoying the media side, and you got to sort of wait for an opportunity to present itself on the management or coaching side. But like I said, it's a big commitment. So it'd be something that would have to be a good situation at the right time, or the right spot for me. But it is something I'd be interested in because it's a fun way to think about the game, breaking it down tactically, or from the management side, taking the global view and saying, all right, where do we want this team to go? How do we get it there? And what are the steps we need to do? So yeah, it's definitely of an interest, but for now, I'm pretty content doing the media stuff.
Unmute my mic.
There we
Last
go.
question comes from Meadowlander. Corey, were you watching the 2013 draft from the Peru Center when Lou traded for you? The 9th overall pick turned out to be Bo Horvat. And I know that you were on the island. Did you ever talk to Bo about that? Because I feel like that's kind of a weird little interaction, right?
Yeah, we've always been linked to each other because of that, and we've never really met until he got traded to Long Island. At that point, I was I was in Bridgeport for the most part, so I never actually shared a locker room with him as a player. By the time he got traded, I don't think I made it up again the rest of the year. So I did see him in the media the next year when I was covering Islanders games. I did say hi to him, and we sort of gave each other a knowing nod, but we didn't really sit down and chop it up. I haven't had a lot of time to really sit down with him and chit chat, but we kind of were like, "Hey, finally, nice to meet you." It's like he knew too, because I'm sure he hears it a lot. But we haven't ever really had a full on discussion about it. It's just kind of a knowing nod. But yeah, I wasn't watching at the time. I knew the draft was on, but I did get a text from somebody in the media up in Canada, sort of saying, "Hey, are you getting traded in New Jersey?" And I said, "I don't know, am I?" He kind of said, "You might want to turn your TV on." And I literally flipped it on as Gary came to the podium. So I pretty much watched it unfurl in real time when everyone else did. So I did not know anything, and then immediately got a phone call from Lou, and then a phone call from Mike Gillis with the Canucks, and within about 10 minutes, my whole life had changed. So I found out about the same time as everybody else.
Amazing story. Corey, the last one that I will give to you is this, because I forgot to ask this during my questions. It's not necessarily a question, but more of like a you should work on this. You used to do impressions of the
Oh
Vancouver
God,
Canucks
yeah,
players. They were
yeah.
awesome. I feel like you should bring that back maybe on an MSG broadcast. If you did a Jack impression, I think that it would go completely viral.
He's hard to impersonate because he's pretty airtight. I mean, he doesn't have a whole lot of, you got to find somebody who's got like a little tick or says things a certain way. Jack would be tough though. I mean, he's like I said, he's pretty bulletproof at this point. But maybe I'll think about it, see if I can come up with something.
Love it, Corey. Corey, thank you so much for doing this, man. Best of luck with your future MSG endeavors, and see you around the rink this year.
Yeah, thanks so much. I appreciate it, Ryan. Thanks for having me.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was Cory Schneider joining us here on Speaking of the Devils. Just an awesome guest. Sorry about the technical difficulties there at the beginning. I need to figure out a different kind of strategy in order to get guests in, because sometimes it could be a bit confusing. There were some troubles there with Marty as well. So it's not just Cory that was dealing with that. It's a little bit of all of us. But that will do it for this edition of Speaking of the Devils. Like and subscribe, everybody. We have a heck of a ton of guests, of great guests coming in the pipeline. Again, that's kind of if everything, knock on wood, everything goes as planned, we have some really fun guests in the pipeline. Maybe as soon as Monday. But we will also be going live after the Washington Capitals game on Saturday. So be sure to tune in to that as well. We'll be going live immediately after that game. And I will see you guys there. Thank you so much for tuning into this, and have a great day.